What's going on, guys? It's the Draft Nerd, and I am finally back bringing you guys my 2025 NFL Draft position rankings. And we're starting off with quarterback. And this isn't quite the class of last year where we had, I believe 5 quarterbacks go in the first round. This is a little bit more of a wait and see kind of class. You got some really fun college players like a Jalen Milroe and a Quinn Ewers. But, do they project well as pros? Who knows? But with that being said, let's get into it. Alright, coming in at number 10, we got Riley Leonard, the transfer from Duke to Notre Dame. And he's, a bit of a bigger quarterback at 6'4", 212 pounds. And right now, currently, I have him projected as a top 200 pick. I think he's got, adequate arm strength. I think he's sneaky athletic and is kind of a sneaky runner. Kind of similar to a Daniel Jones. And that's kind of an early comp for him. And I know it's a little bit of an easy comp, two Duke players. But, I just think Riley Leonard's that sneaky athletic quarterback who can make throws, most throws on the field, most NFL caliber throws. Pocket presence isn't always great, similar to Daniel Jones. Processing and anticipations, a bit average, just like Daniel Jones. I don't want to pigeonhole him into Daniel Jones, but people forget. Although Daniel Jones didn't live up to that top 10 hype, he was a top 10 player. And, with Riley Leonard being ranked 10, being compared to Daniel Jones, I don't think that's too bad of a comparison for him. I think he's got prototypical size for the quarterback position at that 6'4". He's able to see over the offensive line. He's able to see the field, process the field. Like I said, I think he's sneaky athletic. I think you can, design some runs for him. I think he can work really good out of the read option system. And I think he's got the ability to make most NFL caliber throws. The things you worry about him, though, is he's very inconsistent with his ball placement and accuracy, especially the deeper you go down the field. I think he can make really good throws off drag routes, quick slants. That quick pass game I think he's really good in. But when you ask him to layer throws over defenses on, deep crossers or even just like a deep go ball, I think that ball placement gets a little bit iffy. And, pretty inconsistent. But he can make the throw. It's just on a consistent basis can he make the throw is the biggest hang-up I have with him. I think he has trouble reading defenses. Pre-snap, if there's a lot of movement on the defense, I think it doesn't necessarily freak him out. But I don't think he's fully comfortable reading multiple different defensive looks. So hopefully here at Notre Dame, he can improve on at least some of those things. So it's just a wait and see with Riley Leonard. I do think I'm a little bit lower than most people on Riley Leonard, but there's a couple of high potential guys above him, whereas Riley Leonard's a bit of a lower ceiling type of player. Alright, coming in at number 9, I got Cameron Ward from Miami, formerly from Washington State. He's 6'2", 223 pounds, so a bit of a thicker built quarterback. And same with Riley Leonard. I think he's a top 200 pick, more of a day 3 developmental quarterback. I think he's got amazing arm strength. He can make any throw on the field when it comes to, getting the ball there. I think he's really good at improvising, escaping the pocket, and making plays with either his feet or on the run. When it comes to accuracy, it's a bit spotty, and I think a lot of that has to do with his mechanics. And then when it comes to the mental side, he's just not put together at all. I don't think he throws with really any anticipation. He's got to kind of see the receiver open before he lets it rip. Processing, pre-snap is a bit iffy, and then post-snap it can get really ugly. And then his pocket presence is pretty bad. He's got a lot of fumbling issues. He's kind of just loose with the ball in the pocket. So yeah, he's just more of a developmental player. He's really good at the flashy things that come with the quarterback, like really good arm strength, the ability to escape the pocket, make crazy plays with his feet. But when it comes to being that, staying in the pocket killer, he's not that at all. And I think NFL teams are going to want their quarterback to at least stay in the pocket and make throws on time and on rhythm. And I just don't necessarily think Cameron Ward is that right now. Can he improve? Yes. Is he a high ceiling player? Yes. But right now, he's just a little bit too sporadic for my liking. Like I said, with him being loose in the pocket, he only has 7 interceptions, which isn't bad for this quarterback class. But he had 21 turnover-worthy plays, which means he was putting the ball into harm's way a lot, and he was just getting a little bit lucky with, defenders dropping potential interceptions. So he's just a bit sporadic, a fun player to watch, but is he going to project well to the NFL? I have my doubts. Alright, coming in at number 8, I got Jackson Dart, a player I was really, high on last year because he was eligible last season, decided to come back to Ole Miss. but he's 6'2", 220 pounds, so, good enough size. But he's a top 150 player for me, so I could see him going late day 2. He's got, adequate arm strength. It's nothing, spectacular, but it's NFL caliber. He can make throws on time and on target. It's just, he's more of a one-read guy, which I'll get into a little bit later. But he's got some of the best pocket presence I've seen from this quarterback class, and I'll just get right into his pros. I think his ability to sense pressure and escape the pocket is really good. Now, is he going to, make plays with his feet? No, he'll just take what's there. But he has the ability to escape the pocket when pressure comes. He's able to feel that pressure, escape, and, make timely throws on the run. Nothing spectacular, but you'd like your quarterback to be able to at least sense that pressure and get away from it. I think he has a quick, snappy release. It's just a really pretty throwing motion, and I think that leads to a lot of really good, accurate throws. The things that I'm a little bit worried about with him, though, is that he's a one-read quarterback as of right now, and that's kind of an Ole Miss problem, not necessarily a Jackson Dart problem, but, he's really asked to make one quick read, and if that read's not there, escape the pocket, and typically just take a 4 or 5 yard scramble, and that's about it. He's not going to, sit in the pocket, move from one read to a second read to his third read, and then check it down. He's not necessarily going to do that. I don't know if he can. It's just that I haven't seen it from him. I think that he can hold on to the ball a little too long. Like I said, he's good at escaping the pocket. He'll try to make something happen, but I don't know. He does that weird pat the ball thing where he'll pat the ball before he throws it. Don't really like that, and that kind of goes into his mechanics. I think his feet can get a little bit ahead of his, upper half, his throwing motion. I think his feet can get a little, wacky and inconsistent with that. So realistically, I think most of Jackson Dart's deficiencies can be improved, and I think this could be a hot riser as long as he has a really good season at Ole Miss this year, which I think he can. If you want even more draft content and my full 2025 draft guide, my Patreon is the perfect thing for you. You'll get access to all of my player rankings, which are updated daily, plus you'll get to see my full summer eval on players, advanced stats on players, and my draft grades on them as well. Not to mention weekly mock drafts and mock draft reactions. It's the best way to support me and the channel, not to mention it's only $5. Again, only $5. You can't even get a Big Mac for that price anymore. So what are you waiting for? Click the link in the description or the pinned link in the comments, and join the family over there on Patreon. Now, back to the video. Alright, coming in at number 7, we got Jalen Milroe, the quarterback from Alabama. And I know a lot of people are really high on Jalen Milroe, and his ceiling is extremely high, but I think his floor is also pretty low. That's why I got a top 150 grade on him. I think he could, come April, I think he could be a first round pick, but I could also see him being a day 3 pick. Like I said, his variance is just super wide that I don't really know where to put him as of right now. I think he's got, one of the biggest arms in the draft. I think he's, if he gets drafted, he'll be a top 10 quarterback when it comes to arm strength right away. I think he's got the ability to change the game with his feet. I mean, his rushing upside is immense, and that's why you got to kind of put him into that category of an Anthony Richardson, who, I mean, he went top 10. And so that's why I say I think Jalen Milroe has the potential to be a top 10 quarterback and be that Anthony Richardson type, but he's just got a lot of refinement to do, which I'll get into in a little bit. I don't think he's afraid to make big-time throws. I believe out of the, 15 quarterbacks I scouted so far, I think he's had the most big-time throws and the highest big-time throw percentage. So, he's not afraid to sling the rock. That's one thing I will say about Jalen Milroe. So that's what makes him kind of that fun college quarterback to watch, just because he can make plays on his feet. He's not afraid to, sling the ball 60 yards down the field. He's a really fun quarterback to watch. But I think he needs to, refine his game a little bit. I think he has a tough time reading defenses, especially when it comes to blitzes. If there's a outside cornerback blitz, he's not going to see it. He's not able to pick up on blitzes and escape the pocket. And he's also not able to read, more intricate zone defenses. He's had a little bit of trouble with that. I think his accuracy is spotty. That short accuracy is good, which if you're going to be an NFL quarterback, you got to be able to make that short throw. But the deeper it goes, the more, inaccurate he can be. I mean, he can get the ball there for sure. It's just whether or not it's going to be accurate or not. And I think he relies a little bit too much on his arm. And what I mean by that is he'll make a lot of crazy off-platform throws just because I think he'll think that, oh, I can make that throw. My arm is massive and I can just, put all my arm into it. And he's not necessarily setting his base and, putting his full body into it. He's only putting his arm into it. And that can get a quarterback into trouble regardless of how talented your arm is. If your, full body isn't in tune with it, the throw is going to be off target more often than not. And so, like similar to Cameron Ward, Jalen Milroe is a little bit more of a higher upside, and I think he can reach that upside a little bit more than Cameron Ward can. But they're both similar, highlight reel type of quarterbacks, backyard style quarterbacks. But I think Jalen Milroe has more potential to kind of, hone in his craft and become a more all-around quarterback. Moving on to number 6, I got the Arizona quarterback Noah Fifita. Now, this is a very fun player to watch. The biggest knock on him right away is he's 5'11", 194. And if you know anything about college listings when it comes to measurables, they're usually a little generous. So I wouldn't be surprised if Noah Fifita is 5'9", 5'10", 185. And if that's the case, I don't know if he can be an NFL quarterback. Simple as that. You have to reach that, typical 6 foot, 200 pound threshold. We seen it with Bryce Young a couple years ago where, oh, is he too short? Is he too short? Is he too short? But his talent kind of made up for that. And so far in the NFL, we've seen where he's just maybe not big enough to play quarterback. And I don't think Noah Fifita's Bryce Young, really, but we'll get into that a little bit later. I think he's the type of quarterback that isn't afraid to throw the ball downfield, but he's kind of more calculated with it, as opposed to Jalen Milroe, where he's just going to throw that ball no matter what. I think Noah Fifita is a little bit more calculated with the risks he's willing to take. I think he's got good zip on throws under 35 yards. Again, that's just because I don't think his arm strength is anything spectacular, and it's kind of hard for that to be the case when you're, sub 6 foot at quarterback. Your arm's not really going to be that much of an asset to you. You typically see with those bigger quarterbacks, they have bigger arms and more arm strength. So Noah Fifita isn't necessarily that. But I do think he can read defenses pretty well, both pre and post snap. I think he has a good understanding of, zone coverages and where defenders are going to be and kind of work off of that. Some of the problems I have with him is, his size. I'm not a fan of quarterback sub 6 foot. I was kind of a Bryce Young believer. He's kind of proved me wrong. Not many quarterbacks, make it sub 6 foot, and I wouldn't be surprised if Noah Fifita is, a couple inches below 6 foot. So it's a little bit scary. I think his arm strength tapers off on deeper throws. Again, that's just because he's not the biggest guy in the world, so he's not going to have, the arm strength of a 6'4" Anthony Richardson or something like that. I think he has balls batted down a lot. Again, comes from his size. He's not necessarily able to see over his 6'5", 6'6" offensive lineman. I think he's got a low big time throw percentage, and again, he takes calculated risks, and when he does, they pay off. It's just, he doesn't take an abundance of, quote unquote big time throws. I think he's got a lot of Kyler Murray in him where, he's able to escape the pocket and make some pretty creative highlight worthy throws, but I don't think he's as athletic as Kyler Murray. Again, another shorter quarterback. But Kyler Murray is a little bit more thickly built than Noah Fifita. The biggest thing I got with Noah Fifita is he's just too small. If he was a, say, 6'2", 215, he would have a really good argument to be QB1 in this class. Like I said, it's a bit of a weaker class, and, talent-wise, Noah Fifita is really good. It's just his size is a little bit too concerning for me. Cracking the top 5, we got number 5, Quinn Ewers, the quarterback from Texas. Now, he's 6'2", 195 pounds, so a little bit on the skinnier side, but I think he is my first top 100 quarterback. I think he could go within those top 100 picks, and the biggest thing with Quinn Ewers is his arm strength. Him and Jalen Milroe are probably tied with the best arms in this class. I think Quinn Ewers has more of a talented arm than Jalen Milroe. Milroe's just got that, cannon. I think Quinn Ewers, I don't know. They both got cannons. I'm just going to keep it at that. They both have A for arm strength. Like I said, elite arm strength to make any throw on the field. He plays very good off of play action. I think probably one of the best in this class. I think he has the ability to sense pressure pretty well. Again, his pocket presence is a B. Maybe I should bump that pocket presence up to maybe a B+. I think he's accurate to the short to intermediate parts of the field. It's just when he gets to that, 40 plus yard range, again, similar to Jalen Milroe, he's got the arm strength to make those throws. It's just terrible when it comes to ball placement. He'll overthrow a guy from last year's class in Xavier Worthy, one of the fastest receivers basically ever, and he'll overthrow even him. So he's got to hone in on that arm strength and really, just get that ball placement to where it needs to be. Some of the cons I have for him: he's a little light at 195. Nothing too concerning. I just like, get over 200 for me. The ball placement on deep throws is, almost non-existent. He has almost zero precision on those. And then his lower body mechanics can be all over the place. Like I said with some of these other quarterbacks, he relies a little bit too much on his arm, and that sacrifices his mechanics. If he was able to get his lower body in tune with his upper body with the arm strength that he has, he can be a really, really good quarterback. He just needs to hone in on some of that skills, and with his kind of role in jeopardy with Arch Manning behind him, I think that's going to force Quinn Ewers to play to the best of his ability. And I think, again, similar to some of these other guys, he could end up being QB1. This QB1, especially in summer scouting, is completely up in the air. I think any of these top 5 I'm about to talk about could be QB1, and I wouldn't be mad at it. But I do have Quinn Ewers at number 5. All right, coming in at number 4, we got Jalen Daniels. And I'm pretty high on Jalen Daniels. I'd be surprised if I see many other guys with Jalen Daniels in their top 5. But he's a quarterback out of Kansas. He's 6 foot, 220 pounds, so a little bit shorter, but I think he could be a top 50 pick. And I think he could push first round, territory. I think he's got an adequate arm. Nothing, insane, but I think he's got an NFL caliber arm. I think he's got really good rushing upside. I think he's got the ability to escape the pocket, make throws on the run. I think he's got really good accuracy when he is in the pocket. I think he can make consistent throws, whether that's in the short parts of the field, intermediate, or deep. I think he's got the consistency down pat. And I think he can throw with anticipation. He's not the best at it, but really the only downside is his processing ability, which I'll get into in a little bit. But for his pros, I got elusive inside and outside of the pocket. And what I mean by that is, he can escape the pocket, and he's more of a pass first guy instead of a run first guy when he does escape the pocket. But either way, he's just elusive in general, a really fun quarterback to watch. I think he's got good accuracy up and down the field. Like I said, he's got a really good ability to layer throws, which some of these guys don't have, like a Cam Ward and even maybe a Jalen Milroe to a certain extent. But, Jalen Daniels is able to just layer the throws right over the, most of the time linebackers' hands and just drop it right in the bucket. And like I said, he looks to pass first rather than run when he escapes the pocket. He does have a little bit of an injury history. He only played, I believe, 3 games last year for Kansas, and that was because of a back injury. I think it started during spring training. He missed week 1 with it, came back for week 2, 3, and 4, and after that he was shut down for the rest of the season. And apparently he could, hardly get out of bed. It was that bad. With college programs, they don't really give you much details, but a back injury that forced you to miss basically the whole season is a little bit scary, and that's kind of why I only have him at 4, is because we just haven't seen enough of him, really. Height concern at only 6 foot, like I talked about earlier. He's got a little bit of a wacky release. I don't necessarily think it, hinders his accuracy on his balls. It's just a little bit odd looking to me. And, kind of like some of these other mobile quarterbacks, he holds onto the ball for a little too long for my, liking. I would like to see more, one read quick, boom, out with anticipation and precision. He's able to do it, just I haven't seen it enough to really, put it as a pro for him. But overall, I really like Jalen Daniels. I think he's going to be more of a my guy this draft cycle. And I think he could, threaten that first round conversation. But for right now, he's my 4th quarterback just because I haven't seen him play that much. All right, and coming in at number 3, we got the controversial Shedeur Sanders, the quarterback from Colorado. He's 6'2", 215 pounds, so good size, and he is one of the 3 first-round quarterbacks I have. Now, the reason I say he's controversial is just, people have questions on his leadership. His dad's the coach, yada yada. I'm going to talk about the player Shedeur Sanders, not necessarily the leader, because I'm not in the locker room. I'm not in the meetings with him, so I don't really know. I think he delivers throws on time and on target more often than not, and that's because when he has time to throw, he's a very accurate quarterback, probably one of the most accurate. The Colorado offensive line last year was not great at all. It was terrible. So he didn't have many throws where he was able to, just sit clean in the pocket and make a throw. But when he did it at a very high level. I think he's got some of the best mechanics in the class. Like I said, just a real pocket passer. He just wasn't able to pass in the pocket much because of the terrible offensive line. I think he takes care of the football. Some people have concerns on he doesn't, he wants to kind of quote unquote stat pad his completion percentage. And so he won't throw it out of bounds. He won't throw it away. And I think there is some truth to that, but he still takes care of the football. He hardly had any interceptions. Yeah, he had 3 interceptions last year. So, again, if the quarterback takes care of the ball, I'm not going to knock him for that. And I think he's got some of the best processing ability in the class. I think he can read most defenses. He's got all the tools upstairs to be a really good quarterback. Some of the cons are more with the physical attributes. I think he has an average arm at best. I don't think he's anything special when it comes to that. The people that say he has a good arm hasn't watched enough Shedeur Sanders. He has an adequate arm, but nothing special. I don't think he's the most mobile quarterback. He's more of a pocket passer, which isn't a bad thing, but he's just not going to hurt you with his feet. He'll take a 3 or 4 yard scramble if it presents itself, but for the most part, he wants to sit in the pocket and make anticipated throws and read defenses. Like I said earlier, he doesn't throw the ball away when he should. I do think there's some truth to that. I would like to see him throw it away a little bit more often than, take all the sacks he did. I mean, he took just so many sacks. And then another thing is he fumbled a lot in the pocket. I'd like to see him have a little bit more pocket presence, really hold on to the ball. I mean, he was fighting for his life back there, so I'm not going to fully, tear him apart for it, but just hold on to the football a little bit more. And I wish he had a little bit more pocket presence. But besides that, he's got all the intangibles up in the head to be a really good quarterback. And that's what a lot of these other quarterbacks don't have. They have the physical attributes. Shedeur Sanders has the mental attributes, which I value a little bit more in a quarterback. One of the only positions I value that more in is the quarterback position. All right, coming in at number 2, we got Conner Weigman, the quarterback from Texas A&M. Now he's 6'3", 215 pounds, so really good size. And again, I think he's a first-round caliber quarterback. The thing with Conner Weigman is he's a bit of an unknown. He didn't play much last season. He was injured for a good amount of it. Yeah, he only suited up for 4 games before, being shut down with I have in my notes, a foot injury. So, we haven't seen him play much football, at least last season. I didn't really dig too deep into the years prior. But from the 4 games that I seen him play, which I watched all 4, he looked really, really good. Similar to Shedeur Sanders, he can make any throw with really good accuracy and really good timing. One of the best throwers of the football. I think he can drive the ball into tight windows. I think he's got a bit of a stronger arm than Shedeur Sanders does, but again, only an A-. He doesn't have anything incredible. But the one thing that made me put Conner Weigman over Shedeur Sanders is from the 4 games I watched of him, he was a killer on 3rd down. He was able to pick up the first down more often than not, and with a quarterback, that's one of the most valuable things you can do, because ideally you want to run the football, and then on 3rd downs have your quarterback bail you out with I'm him type of throw, and I think Conner Weigman can do that. I think that's what they ask for all the elite quarterbacks in the NFL. Like a Patrick Mahomes, they ask him maybe 3 or 4 times a game to dig into his bag of tricks and kind of bail them out. And I think Conner Weigman bailed out Texas A&M a lot of times on 3rd down. Not comparing him to Patrick Mahomes, of course, but I think he's a killer on 3rd down. Some of the cons I have with him, though, is, again, weird throwing motion, and I think a lot of these quarterbacks do. Maybe that's just a me thing. I don't really think it affected his accuracy much, but he did have a bit of a funky throwing motion. He's not going to kill you with his legs, similar to Shedeur Sanders. He's more of a pocket passer. He wants to pass the ball, not necessarily run with it. And then his lower body isn't always in sync with his upper body. Mechanically, he's a bit wacky. That kind of goes into his weird throwing motion. So I feel like if he worked on his mechanics, he could be even more of an accurate quarterback and even more of a killer on, third downs. But really with Connor Wigman, I just want to see him play a full season and get a full sample size of what he can be. So hopefully we get to see that next season. And then coming in at my number 1 spot, it's a bit of a boring chalk pick, but I got Carson Beck. I think he's the most likely to be the first quarterback off the board. He's a quarterback from Georgia, 6'4", 220 pounds, good size. I think he's got, good enough arm strength. I think he throws with the best anticipation. He's able to, throw receivers open as opposed to see them open, then throw the ball. I think he can run a really good pro caliber offense. I mean, he ran Georgia to, a good season, didn't win a natty like they have in the prior years, but he really had that Georgia offense running as a well-oiled machine. And, Georgia's a pro-style kind of offense. They're a pro team. I think he's got a really tight throwing motion with really good mechanics. Mechanically, he's one of the best in the class, and that's why he's so accurate with the football. Like you see here, I got A for short accuracy and A- for both medium and deep accuracy. If you keep him clean, which Georgia did a lot, he's able to kill you with his arm. The cons I have for him, though, is he's a bit untested against pressure. Again, Georgia's offensive line was so good that he had clean pockets more often than not. And so I'm not necessarily saying he's bad against pressure, but we just didn't get a good sample size of how he acts when he does get pressured for, a good amount. He doesn't push the ball downfield consistently. He's more of a, I'll take what you give me type of quarterback. He's not necessarily going to force balls into double coverage or, make any type of, big time throw. He's just going to take what the defense gives him. And, I like that in a quarterback. You don't have to make all these fancy throws. Just, run the offense. And I think he can do that. And then he doesn't have that big play style like a Jalen Milroe, like a Cameron Ward, like a Quinn Ewers. He's just going to run your offense, and he's going to run your offense well. And I think that's what you want in a, QB1 is just someone that can run your offense. I think he's the most pro-ready quarterback. I mean, if he came out last year, to put things in perspective, if he came out last year, he would have been my, QB6. I think that, Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix, Michael Penix, J.J. McCarthy, I had all of those guys over Carson Beck. So just to put things in perspective, this is a weaker quarterback class. And like I said, I could have seen Quinn Ewers, Jalen Daniels, Shedeur Sanders, Connor Wigman, or Carson Beck being QB1. It's really up in the air, but I think Carson Beck's got the highest floor out of any quarterback in this class. But yeah, that's going to do it. Let me know what you guys think of my rankings. I've watched some other quarterbacks. I haven't watched all of them. So if there's any quarterback that you have any questions about, you can drop them down in the comments. And again, if you want to support the channel, my Patreon is the best way to do that. And you'll get my entire draft guide with, all my position rankings and daily updates to it. But with that being said, I'm the Draft Nerd. Thanks for watching.